guess this is like recent news, but you know how like the Dune IMAX release tickets dropped yesterday?
Oh gosh. Yes.
Yeah, they did.
What a disaster.
Oh yeah, very much so. I think I remember I was out on a walk. And the thing is like I'm not on social media that much. I mean, yeah, I have my accounts where I promote all my, photo video stuff, but more often than not I'm pretty much tuned out of the whole sphere unless, something, interests me or, just like world news or whatever. And, you know, I'm like going for a walk. I decide to look at my phone. All of a sudden, I see like discussing films post that says Dune tickets are going to drop in 30 minutes. And I immediately see the notification 37 minutes after they drop. I go to the IMAX website and all the screenings are pretty much sold out. And you got to guess what impression I'm going to be doing here. But what is the deal with these IMAX tickets being the price of concert tickets? Or dropping like concert tickets. That was a very bad Jerry Seinfeld, but seriously, what is the deal? What is the deal with all that?
I mean, we could thank Christopher Nolan for this one. This time, unfortunately, probably a little bit for the worst. I I found out about the tickets dropping when I was at the airport because I was flying back to New York. I'm on some Discord servers and Reddits, and I typically get these notifications pretty not like super well in advance, but before the press and like the actual IMAX sites announce them, which they typically announce them a half hour after they go live, which totally defeats the purpose. But because it's so far away, I didn't want to commit to buying a ticket right now because also not sure where I'm going to be. I'm not going to be in New York during Christmas time later this year, but I didn't end up buying a ticket, but also I don't think I could have because of where I was at because there was no advance notice. Well, I guess a 30 minutes notice is, I guess, advance enough, but still no one knew this was dropping. And unfortunately, thanks to the Odyssey's pre-sale happening a year in advance, this is now set a precedent that I was kind of afraid of. Now movie tickets are being treated like concerts where false scarcity is happening. And some people obviously we're in tune with films and distribution, but there's some people that are assuming that, oh, these are the only times the movie is going to be shown in this format, which is not really true. They're going to definitely extend the run, but because it's so limited, they are acting as if like, oh, this is the only time you're ever going to see Dune 3. You're ever going to see the Odyssey on IMAX 70 millimeter. And that's just not right. Obviously they're going to be more show times. And yeah, now we got scalpers trying to sell these tickets for upwards of $1,000 on eBay. They're becoming Pokemon cards now. And it's not great. I'm glad there's demand for this, but still, I don't think this is the right direction.
Yeah, it's weird. And welcome to Cinema Boulevard. You just got us in the middle of our conversation about the recent IMAX presale for Dune Part 3. I'm Daniel McGregor-Hoyer.
I'm Matthew Huh. And that was probably the best way to start it because this news dropped yesterday.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like premium formats. I really enjoy them. I mean, I think, it's the best way to experience like any major blockbuster, especially, those that come out of like, the big franchises. And yeah, I've gotten very apathetic to like, the studio film system in general. Just because like, obviously they come in with checklists and agendas, but whenever you see like an auteur driven project, like Doom Part 3 or Oppenheimer or, recently Project Hail Mary, that's the best time to see these films is in that format. And yeah, of course, not every film's gonna require that, just like, I'm not going to expect to see like, sentimental value in IMAX. That's probably not a film that's made for that format. But, I could say that, whenever I see those auteur driven studio features, that's like, yeah, I want to go to the IMAX theater to go catch them. And, I still will go catch Doom Part 3. I mean, I'm not sure what time or if it's got to catch it at 4 in the morning, you know? Um, but, like, yeah, it's crazy that, I mean, IMAX is taking the Ticketmaster route of just dropping these and then they immediately sell out in like 30 seconds. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think another thing is that IMAX just needs to build more theaters. There's not many theaters in the world that are capable of playing IMAX film anymore because we're in this digital age, but there's clearly a demand for it thanks to Oppenheimer and Dune and the re-release of Interstellar as well. So I think obviously if there's demand, there should be more supply as well. But unfortunately, I don't think the industry is at the point where that could be sustained. But there has to be a better method to fulfill the demand, I guess. Like, I don't think this was the way to do it. Unfortunately, with how popular the format was, this is getting to the point where it's crashing sites, and we now have to have 9 to 12 month pre-sales. But I don't know. There has to be a better solution. I think one thing is just to maybe spark an initiative to get more theaters built. So
yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't want to make places too crammed with movie theaters at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, that would be our Wonderland. I mean, hey, maybe you like do an environmental IMAX theater. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, that'd be crazy, but like they had an IMAX theater everywhere, though. That would be wild. Just imagine you're like in, the middle of Arkansas, and there's not much there, and then all of a sudden you see it's just like a giant IMAX theater. Like this.
I mean, that's the case in some areas, though. Like, I think in Iowa, there's an official IMAX theater in some like science center. I don't remember what city it's in.
Oh, yeah, it's
pretty.
there's one in Davenport, the Cinemark in Davenport, but that isn't the premium 70 millimeter.
No, there's one where it's like a legit. It might be Omnimax actually, but I don't know if they still have the film projector there. But that's a legit IMAX theater, like in the middle of Iowa, and I guess to some extent still a major city. But there's an IMAX theater in Indianapolis, which is the closest one to the third largest city in America, Chicago. So you got to make a 3-hour drive to watch IMAX movies because there's no longer an IMAX theater in Chicago, which is very unfortunate.
Hey, I mean, I guess Chicago Bears fans are gonna probably have to experience that anyway.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
whenever that happens.
Yeah, whenever that happens, yeah. So the Bears, I'm grew up in Minnesota, so oddly enough, I have more animosity for Chicago Bears fans than I do Green Bay Packers fans. So my apologies to all the Chicagoans everywhere. Hey, the '85 team was good, and I do love Walter Payton cross act. But yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a lot of the drama involved, right?
Oh yeah, speaking of drama.
Yeah, the drama recently came out. We've from Christopher Borgli. That is that how you pronounce the name? Christopher Borgli.
I think so.
Yeah,
He's also from Norway, so this is the second Norwegian director we're talking about on the podcast.
Yeah,
getting our Norwegian representation in early.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And those who don't know, he directed Dream Scenario from 2023, and I believe this is his third feature film, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's fourth.
Fourth.
I think it's his fourth movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, this is his fourth feature film. And it stars Zendaya and Robert Pattinson as a newly engaged couple whose relationship is suddenly tested after an unexpected secret kind of breaks loose between them. And a week before the wedding. So a lot of drama there. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts?
So I was excited for this film right from the start, actually because of the director Christopher Borgli, because he has done 4 films, which I've seen 3 of them. His first film that I saw was Sick of Myself, which was a black comedy from Norway. It's actually really underrated and really funny. It's almost, if you could believe it, it's a like imagine the, I guess, directionlessness and quasi narcissism of the worst person in the world multiplied by 100. Like that's a film that really goes over the top with that type of behavior, and it's really funny. And it also has Anders Danielson Lee in it, who played Axel in The Worst Person in the World. So I recommend that. And then later on, he did Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage, and that was an American production as well. I believe Ari Aster produced it too, and I think that's a hilarious movie. Honestly, it's a really clever, really creative take on, I guess, cancel culture. And it's really bizarre and strange. And Nicolas Cage is hilarious as usual. So those 2 films, I was like, I want to watch whatever else this guy has cooking. And for that reason, the drama, I was pretty intrigued, but rather purposefully, the marketing was clearly hiding something. And we won't spoil it now, but we'll eventually get into a spoiler discussion. But a lot was riding on that secret. And I think for those that have not seen the drama, you must go into it not knowing anything. And I know it's going to be a bit harder now because the film will be out by the time we release this, but that surprise is imperative to the film working. And for that reason, it leads to an incredibly awkward, uncomfortable, and like darkly hilarious experience. And I really, really liked this film. I thought it was very clever in the way it sort of critiques some issues, but also exploring the different types of, I guess, the underlying psychology behind partners in a relationship. And you could almost look at this film as a study on modern psychoanalysis. Just how do we perceive other people? Like we meet someone who we're pretty confident we want to be with for the rest of our life, but then when something is revealed, that totally changes the way we look at them. It's like, could I still see myself being with them? Are they the problem or am I the problem? And that's the battle essentially between these 2, which is Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. Zendaya has the secret, and then Robert Pattinson is trying to he's battling back and forth whether or not he actually wants to be in this relationship still. And from that, it's just, I found myself really finding humor in just the awkwardness of it. And for that reason, I would not be surprised if someone would come out of this film absolutely hating it, because if you don't like that type of sort of secondhand cringe or embarrassment, this will be borderline painful to sit through. But as someone who likes dark humor and as someone who likes cringe humor when done well, I found it hilarious. But unfortunately, nobody else in my audience did. They were dead silent, so I couldn't laugh out loud. But otherwise, yeah, it's great. And the great thing about Borgli as a director too is that it's not only just in the dialogue where he succeeds with the humor, but also visually as well. He's very similar to Joachim Trier, where he plays with the film form in ways that not many other directors would with the type of film he's making. And this is very, the editing is really clever. There's some really good use of color symbolism as well. And yeah, it's just a really good sense of directorial control, but it's not over the top flashy. It's pretty reserved, and it's a good, I would say, mid-budget indie picture that definitely stands out in the market. And I think we do need more of these. We don't always need $100 million auteur-driven feature. Something like this where it's like just above low to mid budget, I guess, is good enough. And hopefully it'll turn a profit because it's really unique and original.
This was actually the day of recording this was actually the first time I've watched any Christopher Borgli film. And believe it or not, the first one wasn't the drama, it was Dream Scenario. I actually ended up watching it this morning before I went to go catch the drama early this afternoon. And I mean, Dream Scenario was really good. I enjoyed it. Definitely Ari Aster coded, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Because I can, and yeah, he did produce it. So I wouldn't say that Borgli felt restricted by that, but it somehow it felt that way. Because obviously I don't know what else went on, but he definitely seems to have like a good sense of like dark humor, um, in his writing, and and is oddly enough like a really really good editor. I think the editing in that film is actually pretty phenomenal in my opinion. So he clearly has like a knack for just sort of like these human dramas, but sort of in a ridiculous twist in some sense. Um, and obviously with you know dream scenario being much more fantasy, like the drama is definitely not more fantasy like. It's actually more purely a romantic dark comedy. And so I went into this, you know, not really knowing too much about it. I know there were some controversies which we will get into once we get to spoilers, but I was pretty much going in with an open mind. And yeah, it's great. Certainly an uncomfortable watch, but it does a good job really analyzing this relationship and sort of like like what is the worst thing about your significant other, and how would you react to a secret that is a pretty horrendous secret. Um and so it really is a good examination of how both of these characters are sort of grasping with that reality of the secret coming to life. And and obviously like the acting is really good. Zendaya and Robert Pattinson do an excellent job, you know really portraying like this relationship. And there's believability that they love each other, but you also believe like the strain that this whole giant revelation puts on the relationship. You feel that it's really well done, just from an acting standpoint. But I just think the one thing that really worked with me for me was like the editing in this film. I think Borgli also edited it with Joshua Raymond Lee, who I don't know has done anything else. But the way the story and characters' thoughts sort of flow through all this like cross cutting, and you know and how they just sort of like switch back and forth between timelines, like it actually works very well. And it's not like an everything everywhere all at once sort of thing, but they actually use the editing to sort of tell the story of these characters visually without trying to like what over exposition it, I guess. And really lets you sit in with these emotions, and then obviously watching as like everything starts to unravel in some respects. And the thing is, weddings. Like weddings, I mean, I've only been to a few. I got another one coming up later this year. But those weddings are probably the most stressful time of the year for like any couple. And I think this film, like, purposely, not purposely, I think this film perfectly encapsulates like that stress, but seeing how this all sort of just goes wrong. And a lot of good humor just comes out of it, even if it's like a very dark and sadistic edge. It's like it's some of it's really hilarious. I really enjoyed like how they sort of portrayed that humor. And yeah, I mean it's a really impressive film. I think you can really digest what's going on, even though there are going to be times where you're just going to be like, squirming in your seat a little bit as like all these uncomfortable things are happening. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where anything that could go wrong does go wrong. And the worst case scenario that your mind could probably go to is likely either an equivalent or greater to what actually happens. And I think that sort of almost comedy of errors almost keeps you going throughout. And there are points where it doesn't just seem like it's just shocking, and it's kind of hard to talk about this kind of early on without getting into it, but the commentary of the film, I think, helps from a different perspective. And, I don't even know if I want to say that right now. You think we should just say spoilers, honestly? Because I don't know how else we talk about this before.
Yeah, I think we should. So we're going to be, for sure. We're going to be diving into spoilers with the drama. If you don't want to be spoiled for the drama, skip to the next time code. And I guess we should just give a big trigger warning, as we are going to be discussing some pretty, I wouldn't say like heavy topics, but topics, or at least a certain topic that is pretty prevalent in today's society. That, unfortunately still happens. But yeah, just spoilers and, of course, trigger warning. Skip to the next time code if you do not want to hear either. So, all right, 3, 2, 1. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so pretty much the reveal. The nice thing about the trailer, too, is that I think it was the second trailer. They actually play a scene where the secret is revealed, but they don't actually say it, but you just see the reaction. So your mind is filling in the blank of, okay, what did Zendaya do that enacted this reaction? And the reveal, basically, to give context, they're all talking about like, oh, what was the worst thing you've done, pretty much, like in your life, like a secret that you never told anybody. And they're going throughout their things. And then when it gets to Zendaya, she reveals that when she was in high school, she planned a school shooting at her school. She had the gun and everything, and she was going to do it, but ultimately decided not to. And that moment hits like a ton of bricks, because you're just like, what? Like, how? Like, it just comes out of nowhere in a good way, because one, this happens early on in the film, but then from that moment on, you literally have no idea where the movie's going to go. And I think the entire film is basically riding on that scene where they're going through talking about the worst things they've done. And if that scene did not work and it did not land correctly, the whole movie would suffer. And I think, to Borgley's credit, he really directed the absolute hell out of that scene, because you see the conversations between Zendaya, Robert Pattinson. It's also Alana Haim, and I forget the other dude's name, but the way they talk Yes, him. Yeah, the way they talk and converse, it feels very natural. They're also drinking some wine too, so you can sense they're a bit drunk, and just the way they sort of go in and out of like, oh no, I don't want to tell it. It's like, okay, I did this. It's like the secondhand embarrassment, the cringe, the like nervous laughter, and just the sort of the bluntness of Zendaya too, when she just reveals it very casually, expecting some sort of laughing reaction too. And then they're just like, are you serious? Like, are you joking? Like, everything that your mind is thinking, you are in that scene, and it's perfect, honestly. And I remember thinking in that moment, it's like, I feel like I'm witnessing this atom bomb being dropped, and now I'm totally I want to see what happens next. And I think that is the hallmark of a great scene, because if it weren't for that, the movie wouldn't work. And then from that on, you're just hooked. And from then on, there's this denial, there's not insecurities, but it's more just, I guess, people processing in different ways. Like, okay, how do we proceed forward? Especially with Robert Pattinson, who is riddled with so many insecurities too, that he's just like, it's kind of like the AITA subreddit, where he's sort of talking about like, am I the problem for like not leaving her at this point, when I know that she was about to shoot up a school, even though it was so long ago and she didn't actually do it? Like, should I report her? Should I run away or something? Why am I still putting myself through all this pressure and stress almost? And then likewise for Zendaya too, just sort of like justifying everything in her head, like why she wanted to do it, what enacted her, and also what caused her to stop, and how she formed her own path going down, ironically, anti-gun control activism too. almost being this sort of fraud. How it splinters off from this one event makes a lot of sense. And you could tell that there was thought put into that. And I guess before going to the commentary, I'll let you talk too. But like, what did you think about that bombshell of a twist right from the start?
Yeah, so I actually, oddly enough, I knew about the controversy that this film had when it was coming out. I think I
Oh, yeah.
forgot who reported it. I think it's either Hollywood Reporter or Variety that reported it, where there was somebody like upset about the fact that this film was talking about gun control and sort of using it as a plot device or mass shootings, technically, or more accurately. So I think so. I knew about those controversies, so it's like, okay, there's probably a reason why it's there, and yeah, there is. I mean, it clearly doesn't like glorify, you know, mass shootings. I mean, that would be horrible if it did.
No.
Like this isn't a Daily Wire film. Um, but it doesn't necessarily try to do it in a way that is like disrespectful, I guess. Like it actually, kind of shows about how heavy, this type of event is. But it doesn't focus on it too much because obviously if they did, it wouldn't necessarily be about a wedding drama, would it? So I guess like it is a very like tight line that Borgli is writing on. Because I think it's a lot, and then it's a case where, there's going to be people that are going to be very divided about how the topic's approached and like, the fact that it was used in the film. And it's like, oh, maybe this could work even without it. But then I sort of realized that it's like, what other egregious thing could have Zendaya done that made anybody that uncomfortable? Because the thing as I noticed is like, I told you I was sitting behind this couple in the theater. And I think once that scene happened, the guy was like, oh, man, Jesus. Like, it's like, and I think there is intent with why it's there. Because the thing is, when people mention stuff like mass shootings, like, that makes everybody uncomfortable. Like, it really does. And it honestly works, and oddly enough. And yeah, I think it is justified that they're going to probably be people that are not going to like this film because of the fact they even mention mass shootings. And the thing is, like I said, they're not going to they don't try to be soapboxy with it, and they don't try to be like, glorifying it at all. They don't try to glorify violence either. But I think it's just sort of trying to put you in the shoes of this situation that is a rather uncomfortable situation. And so I do think that it does work, but I wouldn't be, like I said, I'm not surprised by some of the reactions that have come out from this being controversial because of the mentioning of something that, is unfortunate, like horribly still happening in not just this country, but the world. So it is like, so I could understand why those reactions are there. So.
Yeah, it's definitely, this film basically operates on a tightrope walk. And I really admire how Borgli's really in this situation kind of fearless to do this, especially in an American film. Granted, he is Norwegian, but the fact that he's telling this story, I feel like so many directors would not even dare to get close to this type of subject matter. So the fact that he addresses it pretty head on, I really kind of respect just how he isn't afraid. Honestly, he's not afraid to tackle something this serious and dark and very prescient, and even still like addressing it in the dialogue as well too. Like, not that it's not like the descriptions are super like violent necessarily, and the imagery isn't like horribly violent, but it's just the main idea, like what causes a person to go down this path. And with more the context of Zendaya being a child too, planting a lot of those seeds early on, does sort of paint this picture, but also, I guess, identifying why at a young age she regretted even the mere thought of that, and almost how she sort of snapped out of it, basically. But even still, I think one thing that kind of helped the film, and this might sound might be a little strange to describe, but the fact that this was not made by an American filmmaker, I think Borgley was able to get away with more of the commentary just because he is framing it from someone who is not in the States, if that makes sense. So like the commentary on just how many shootings happen in America, and also just how easy it is to own a firearm, to sort of almost like, okay, who is really, I guess, the spark to this? Is it the individual, or is it the nation and the just where we live that sort of is enacting this? Is it like media that's being consumed too? There is that subtle commentary in both serious and like oddly funny ways too. Like I think there's one line towards the end when it's sort of literally everything's going wrong at this wedding, and we'll get into another sort of, I guess, like not twist but big reveal too. But yeah, it's when Zendaya is at the wedding. She believes that someone else is gossiping about the fact that she almost started school shooting. And then Pattinson, he says a line, something like, well, maybe she was talking about like another one that happened this week. They always happen. Something along those lines, which I think is meant to be more meant for a comedic effect. But there is definitely some truth to that. Like there's unfortunately, so many shootings that happen. It's like, how do you keep up? Like, it's all over. It's always on the news, but then we just move on to whatever's happening in the world simultaneously. Like we've gotten so numb to it, unfortunately. So there is that level that I can understand why the film maybe didn't dive deeper into, because it's not preachy. It doesn't stand on a soapbox, because it's really more focused on these characters and that psychological breakdown. But it's nice that there are sprinklings of it there. Like it's not, I don't think Borgley just used this just to be like, oh, this is so shocking. Like he's not a provocateur. He's not Lars von Trier or Emerald Fennell. There is some nuance there. And that's also reflected in the visuals too. Like there's some scenes when it shows Pattinson, I guess, reliving memories of him with Zendaya, but then it's intercut with the younger version of Zendaya who almost started the shooting. And that's a really effective image, honestly, to see like, yeah, that person that you fell in love with almost did this horrible thing. It's very simple, but it's very striking.
And knows how to really toe that line. I mean, I think regardless of what subject matter you put there, I think Borgley knew that it needed to be shocking in some way. It needed to be something that could really put you in the shoes of Charlie in this film. And there is a quote that Pattinson said in the film. I think it was after I forgot when it was, but I think it was like halfway through the film, where he mentions a Freudian quote where initially,
oh yeah,
like unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in ugly ways. And I think he paraphrased it a little bit. I don't think he said that exact quote, but it's like, just basically saying that, unexplained truths will come out in the ugliest of ways. And that whole quote personifies this film, because you're just sort of realizing not only like, yeah, this truth is getting discovered early on, but it's how quickly this, for lack of a better word, drama is sort of like unraveling as the film goes along, and really putting you in really uncomfortable situations with these characters. And you're kind of seeing all these insecurities just pop up between both of them. That is really like, it's like testing you in some way. Like there's just times where I'm just like, I have to look away, but I just can't, because I want to see where this all goes. And the thing, and I want to go back to the editing real quick, but it was it's the scene after like, the whole secret's revealed early in the film, and Zendaya is sitting on the couch, and it kind of cross cuts into hypotheticals where, she's thinking like, oh, he's gonna be running away, or like, oh, he's gonna be coming back and they're gonna forgive each other. It's like, no, it's like, they're just gonna sit there and talk. And it's only for like 30 seconds, but it's such a good moment in the film because it's expressing, your mind sort of racing through all these hypothetical situations that may or may not happen. But it's like, it's really putting you in her shoes in that scene. And it really does that without using any exposition at all. You're just really feeling like you're this character in that moment. And there's a lot of scenes like that. I mean, I wish there were more scenes like that, but there are a lot of scenes where they're sort of using the cross-cutting techniques to really emphasize what's going through these characters' minds and really just kind of like putting you in these rough situations. And I think especially there's another point where they use it with like Robert Pattinson sort of, you know, with the version of Zendaya that's like the high school girl. And you're kind of seeing that through his perspective. And I mean, and yeah, in some ways it could have came off really, really creepy. No diddling here, guys. But it oddly enough came off rather, it still worked because like you're sort of thinking of like, I could have hypothetically, went with somebody that actually went through with this. And because, he's sort of thinking like, oh, is this a different version of that girl who didn't go through with that whole horrible thing, or am I still dating the same person from that point? And it is very well done in terms of just how they're integrating those moments to like emphasize a character's headspace. It's really amazing on how it's done.
A lot of it is also invoking the question within you. It's like if you were placed with this like really awful situation at probably the worst time ever, how would you react? Like, what would you do? And the film tests you in that way, which I think also, let's say this is just a really hard watch for someone. I think that question is kind of what will like keep drawing them to the film, because it prompts you with that in a lot of different scenarios too, even from the perspective of other characters who are more blunt with like where they stand, like particularly Alana Haim's character, whose cousin was paralyzed in a shooting as well, and this is Zendaya's friend in the film, and just how she also revealed a bad thing, which arguably, I know people have talked about this online, she like locked a kid in a closet when she was a child and actually did it, unlike Zendaya, who didn't go through with the shooting. And she thinks she's like very high and mighty for that reason, even though she did a very bad thing as well. And that dichotomy also just shows that like, yeah, there's some people that also are so, I guess they defend what they did as like, oh, it wasn't as bad as what you almost did. And that sort of fuels their frustration and anger as well. And then you have, I guess, the Mamadou Athie character, who is a bit more passive almost. I wish there was a little more about him, tell you the truth. But I guess every character almost personifies an internal feeling that you might have towards something as shocking as this reveal, which I think helps with the identifiability of the film too, is just like, where do you implant yourself into? Whose character do you think you see yourself being in this situation? And then of course it gets worse when Pattinson, he's like talking to his coworker at his job about almost doing like a self-therapy session, just like, well, what would you do if your partner almost started a shooting, but they were like in high school and didn't actually do it? And she's like, well, I'd probably report them. I'd probably like go to the police. And then he just like loses it. Basically, he's just like, why am I doing this whole time? And he just kind of breaks down, and then that leads to another series of events, which the film gets so messy in a while with its characters, which is definitely intentional. Like, it's not a messy film, but just, God, the scenarios that play out are just crazy.
Yeah, because you kind of see a lot of these characters are sort of acting out of like sort of fears and anxiety about themselves. Like I know there's like people on, film Twitter that are like, Alana Himes like playing the best villain of the year. Which, yeah, in some cases, like, yeah, she is sort of taking on a little more of an antagonistic role in this film. But I think, yeah, she has some justified reactions, but it's kind of showing like how these fears, these anxieties, and these like deeply like rooted like psychoactive moments in your brain like really make you like you said, it's like that quote, it's like it's coming out ugly, like everything that's happening is coming out incredibly ugly from everybody involved. And yeah, like I've always botched his name, but Mathamu Athi, like his character
Oh,
sort
I
of
totally botched his name.
yeah, yeah, unfortunately, we botch people's
I'm
names on
sorry.
this podcast. But, his character, like, I think with the fact that he is passive, it is sort of, yeah, it does sort of come across like in a way that's like, oh, yeah, like that is, like, he's probably just as bad as they are, even though he's not quite as, like, focused on. But yeah, he's not really doing anything to, like, mediate the situation either. I mean, he tries to, but he's just sort of like there and just like watching all the glass break initially. And it's really amazing, like how the film sort of just shows these characters displaying like these really ugly side of themselves and then revealing even more ugly sides of themselves. Like that whole scene with the coworker, you know, it's like you kind of think like Pattinson's gonna, do something even more egregious, and then he's like, no, 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 I can't do this like at all. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, he sort of has a conscience there to stop him from completely emotionally breaking down. And then yeah, there's a nice little bit of humor where he picks up the buttons of her shirt, um, which is like it's a nice bit of levity after that moment, but you're like still feeling like this really like dark underlying layer that really is emphasized pretty well. That I think Borgli did very well with Dream Scenario, where it sort of took a Venterberg level of approach where it was trying to sort of show how society reacts to things that they're either not in control of or not aware of. And it is a really impressive, and obviously this one's more internalized between you know 4 or 5 characters initially, but it still makes it come across rather authentic, despite like, yeah, I mean, if we ever come across these people in real life, it's just like yikes. It's crazy, it's really crazy. um, yeah.
I think too where it ends up, and I'm not talking about the actual scene at the wedding when literally everything just spirals out of control. I think the very, very end, like I guess the finale of the film, really ties everything together to show the more human side of these characters, which I could see some people being pissed about this ending, but I don't know. I think it shows that basically, in context, the wedding is a total disaster, and then they sort of go their separate ways. It's revealed that the funny thing is that I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't outright say at the wedding that Zendaya almost caused the shooting, right?
Yeah.
The big like tipping point is the fact that it's accidentally revealed that Pattinson cheated on Zendaya with the coworker. I forget the actress's name, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but she's been in a lot of stuff recently too.
Yeah. The name is Haley Gates.
Haley Gates, yes. And that sort of sparks this whole thing where Pattinson almost realizes like, okay, what my life is a mess right now. But then he kind of a callback to an earlier scene in the film. I think Zendaya proposes like, oh, we should go to a diner, like a burger place after the wedding, like how they do at the Oscars, something like that. And they actually do that. And that's where they sort of make up basically by having a literal physical and mental reset of like, let's forget almost everything that happened, because not to say we condone the actions, but just the fact that these two know that they are they saw something in each other that caused them to begin this relationship, get engaged, and now I guess get married too, because they did sign the marital certificate. But that shows that, okay, if they're this devoted to each other, even with all the baggage and all this like chaos that happened, they might be okay. Honestly, the film does leave it open ended, but I do like how the film at its core does have a soul. Like, it's not, if they really wanted to be cynical, they could have been like, oh, they separate and then their lives are just miserable, like borderline like a Kubrick ending almost. Or maybe if Ari Aster made this, that's probably what he would have done too. But it was weirdly sweet, and it showed that there is a chemistry between these characters. Like, the film cares about its characters. It respects its characters to some degree, despite the fact that they're kind of like both psychopaths. But I do appreciate that. I left the theater like, oh, I feel a bit charmed almost by this, which hopefully that doesn't make me sound like an insane person, but I don't know. I thought it worked, and it showed that there was really something here in terms of examining the relationships, and the fact that it really at its core tells a story about like human empathy and forgiveness almost, despite horrible circumstances and consequences too.
Yeah, it's certainly that way. I mean, I think it was a nice sort of satisfaction at the end of the day, because they talk about that diner sort of being like this sort of seedy, and apparently there's crackheads that go to that place. And it's kind of like seeing where they end up, like, really does sort of work in terms of like the idea of this sort of this ugliness in some cases. But even in the most ugly of places, like, they're still you know in love with each other. They're still compassionate for each other, even if your significant other has this very tough truth about them. And I think that worked rather well. But yeah, that climax, that was like, I think that's like the moment where like when everything just like comes loose, is like really amazing. Like, in this how it's sort of presented, because you think it's like gonna immediately like cut into it, but you sort of like I said, it's like the cross cutting that is being done from the editing perspective is really awesome. I mean, it's good to see like how this whole thing just goes insane in the wedding photographer. It's like taking photos of the encounter between Charlie and his coworker's boyfriend. It's really hilarious in that way, but also really shocking too. And I don't know, I mean, yeah, they have a lot of bits of humor sprinkled out. I think, the photographer in me was just like, yeah, I got to probably stop using the term when I'm ever going to go out to photograph something. Because, it used to be where it's like, okay, I'm going to go out to shoot a soccer game or whatever. And now it's like, I should probably stop using that term now, because this film, like the scene where, after the whole truth is discovered, the wedding photographer is like going over plans with Zendaya and Pattinson. It's like, okay, I'm going to shoot you guys. I'm going to shoot you if your parents, going to shoot you if your grandparents, going to shoot you if your best friends. It's like, yeah, probably it's good to change that terminology now as a photojournalist.
I love how also too, whenever the shutter happens and the flash goes off, it has like this muted cannon sound too, as if a gun is being fired. And it's just like, that's just a little detail of just Borgley being playful, I guess, more with like the editing and the sound. But it's very effective how just every little snapshot of that camera is equivalent to a gun being fired. And it's just, it like permeates your soul almost, like, oh God, like, that's horrifying. It's a horrifying comparison.
Yeah, it's like they do the same thing like during the father's wedding speech, where he mentions like, yeah, I still don't know where that gun went, and then all of a sudden the DJ entering like trying to install a cable, like the speaker on it just goes off like a gun. It's like it's like there's a lot of hilariously uncomfortable situations in this movie.
That's the level of dark humor that I think really worked in the film. Like it's horrifying, but also I'm like nervous laughing too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, I guess like one thing I do want to tap on too is that Daniel Pemberton did the score. And I know he also
Yeah,
did
he
the
did.
score for Project Hail Mary. And I don't know, did he do Dream Scenario too? I'm trying to remember.
I
But
I don't know actually.
yeah,
I'll look that up.
but yeah, it's I guess the thing I noticed with Borgle's like use of music in his films is that it's music that is like it sort of reminds me a little bit of Daniel LaPatton's score for Marty Supreme, where it's like it's very like a lot of high tones, a lot of like high tone piano notes, but they're sort of being used in a way that it's like meant to give you like some sort of anxiety, like it's never ending in some respects. And I really like how the music was used in this film. It tries to give off that sense of anxiety that the film tries to portray. It really does a great job there.
Yeah. Owen Pallett did the Dream Scenario score.
Okay.
So
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it must just be very similar sounding because it almost sounds the same. But yeah, still like you could tell Borgli has like a certain style and melody that he's very attached to with this film score. Rather rather like interesting and like how it's used. So this was also produced by Ari Aster too. I just realized.
oh, was it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I like Dream Scenario, but Dream Scenario was. It definitely felt like a Ari Aster film that Ari Aster didn't direct. And I don't know
Mm.
if it was like, the whole, fantasy sci-fi angle or if it just had to do with just like how certain scenes were shot. And yeah, this one does certainly have a few asterisms, but it I don't know, I think it still comes off as Borgli's own type of piece at the end of the day. Um because I like Dream Scenario. I still like it. But I think, it kind of felt like he was really channeling too much of Ari Aster in that film. This film, I could at least say it feels like he's actually developing that style, and trying to make his, you know, own stamp on it without, ever trying to make it seem like it's too inspired. So,
You can definitely see Borgley growing as a filmmaker. I do really like how he's been able to make I guess a distinct stamp with his style with only a few films, and especially given the fact that he didn't start making American films. This was his second go around, and he does have an understanding of I think what an audience might want to see, but we also have to attribute that to A24's marketing. But Grant, I know like people have been a little hit or miss with this film, but it definitely got people in. Like you got like big name stars and I guess a deceptively intriguing premise, but it was almost like a Trojan horse where it's like using that to sort of challenge the perspectives of the audience, but not in a way that felt malicious. Like it's not like a exploitation film or anything. It has stuff to say, which I don't know. I do like how it also was successful. It did pretty well this weekend for the budget it had. And yeah, I don't know how well it'll do the second weekend, but people were definitely talking about it. So
oh yeah, I mean, I
didn't
think
just get buried.
oh yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's not getting buried. I think, and yeah, like I said, I know there's people that are going to be very uncomfortable about how it handles the whole gun control theme throughout. So I think and yeah, I can understand people who wouldn't want to go see this for that reason. Either just because of politically or whether or not they see it as ethical. But I still do think like regardless of that like aspect, like the film is still phenomenally laid out. So I do think like yeah, I could see this like certainly developing its audience as it goes on. I mean, I don't know if I see it with like any award contention. I think it can certainly do that. I mean, hopefully, maybe
It's
some,
a hard maybe, unfortunately.
yeah, just because, I mean, maybe it might be a little bit too dicey for awards voters to really, you know, tap on to this type of film, especially with the way it approaches this topic. But I don't know. I mean, they managed to do well with something like If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, or, you know, uh, I don't know why I forgot it, but, they managed to do pretty well with like films like that. But maybe that one was like released later in the year. So I don't know if it's going to necessarily break the mold that way, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, but I don't know. I think regardless of whether it gets nominated or not, I think it's still a really well done film. So, I guess, yeah. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I found it to be brilliantly brilliantly told, brilliantly executed, and definitely brought out a level of discomfort and anxiety that felt very almost like you're like slowly going towards a cliff, just like, oh man, like when is this just gonna like all topple over? It's a giant house of cards basically, and for that reason, I really found it just a fascinating watch that definitely took a lot of risks. Not many filmmakers I think would do this, but I really appreciate that Borgley went ahead and did it. Like he definitely did not sugarcoat anything and was just like, no, this is the story I want to tell. It's going to make you uncomfortable. And that's the movie. It didn't really feel like there were compromises with this, which I always like to see. And it may not be for everybody, but if you like this sort of, I guess, psychological breakdown of characters and also reflecting on, I guess, your own morality as well as commenting on a lot of current issues, this is probably the film for you. And somehow, after saying all of that, this was a more romantic experience than any second of Wuthering Heights. This was a better romance film than anything in that, and then some. So yeah, I liked this film a lot. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too. I mean, it is certainly an uncomfortable watch, but there's a think just because it's an uncomfortable watch does not mean that the uncomfortable feeling isn't intentional. Because it reminds me a lot of the Safdies. It reminds me, a lot of Eggers films, at least in terms of heightened levels of anxiety. But I do believe that this is still a really good film. I mean, I think regardless of whether you're comfortable with the whole mass shooting subplot or not, I still think the film does reasonably well. And I think it's laid out perfectly. I think every narrative beat hits the right way. It's a great character study. Not just of one, but maybe even like three or four characters that you kind of see are impacted by this, horrible truth. And yeah, and it's very well shot. I think this is probably the best editing I've seen so far this year. And yeah, I mean, Christopher Borgli really, he certainly has a future. I'm really excited to see what he does next. I mean, definitely developing into that style, and certainly a name to keep an eye out for. So yeah, yeah, 8 out of 10. So all right, Matthew, you ready for your favorite film of the year?
God.
Yep. So coinciding with the weekend release of the drama, we have the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the newest film from Illumination Animation, co-produced with Nintendo, distributed by Universal. It's a sequel to the 2023 Super Mario Brothers movie. It's you know, it's basically a sequel to that film in some regard. It's more or less it's about Mario and Luigi, the video game characters, of course, trying to save Princess Rosalina from Bowser Jr. And I guess where to start with this film. I guess
Yeah.
a little bit of lore, at least on our
Yeah.
side. We talked about the original Mario movie back in 2023 when it came out on
Hmm.
Bijou Banter. Um, and you know, I know you had your feelings. I had my feelings. I think my feelings are now a little bit less, but I think you're ready to roll up the sleeves, aren't you?
I mean, yes and no. So, okay, to give some context, when we did Bijou Banter, I guess I'll give a brief summary of my thoughts on the first film. I thought it was an absolute disaster. It was horrible. I, considering Mario hadn't been on the silver screen in 30 years, I thought this would have been a good opportunity to, you know, bring it to a new light, have some fun, but also try. But it didn't try. It just went for the laziest references, hardly a plot, no funny jokes. I guess Jack Black and Charlie Day are fine. No, they're actually they're decent, but they don't. And the animation's good, but it's not enough to save it. I for some reason, because I'm an idiot, I've rewatched it like twice, having I guess some Stockholm syndrome, thinking I would like it again, but no, it just gets worse and worse. So yeah, 1 out of 10, awful film. So for that reason, I was not looking forward to Mario Galaxy because it didn't seem. I mean, when you dislike a film that much before, you really don't have high hopes. But I was like, well, I try to think positive. Like maybe this would have been a little better. And Mario Galaxy is also a fantastic game with so much potential to explore. I was a little worried the fact that Illumination was being in control of this, but it's like, okay, let's see. But then just the more that was getting announced, it was very obvious that this was not going to be a accurate adaptation of the Mario Galaxy game. And what we got instead was literally the exact same thing, only done worse, where they doubled down on all the things that made the first film suck. I hated Mario Galaxy movie. Awful, horrendous experience in every way. And what pisses me off is that, one, they didn't learn anything. They somehow made things worse, where the fact that this film basically has no plot, it's just a series of scenes stitched together. You could re-edit it in any order, it wouldn't matter. References are now doubled down. And also the fact that this film, in its opening weekend alone, already made $390 million worldwide, which is more than I think the entirety of Sinners and One Battle After Another, which is so depressing, honestly. And it just shows that, you know, we're at the point where these types of intellectual property films have reached a new low where they don't even try to tell a story or have good morals. They just dangle keys in front of the fans' faces, show them the characters they recognize, give them the jokes, I guess, and just basically have them soy in the theater for 90 minutes. And that was it. So for that reason, I felt like I was the idiot basically for spending money to support this. And God, it's so depressing. It's just, it was just sad. It was a very sad experience. And I was more baffled by the fact that, like, how did you make less of a story out of this franchise when the first film barely had a story? But honestly, in comparison, Mario Galaxy makes the first one look like War and Peace. Like, there were no stakes or consequences in the sequel. It was just nothing for 90 minutes. And I think it was what's his name, Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian. He said it was worse than AI, which I know is a pretty harsh statement, but no, I'm not going to go that route. I'm not going to defend AI, but I will say this is definitely, it might be the worst video game movie that I've seen. I haven't seen all of them. I know I haven't seen the Uwe Boll films, but like, I thought this was worse than Minecraft. Honestly, it was worse than FNAF 2 because you could see at least those films had plots. That's the most I could say. Yeah, it was, awful. What did you think?
Well, obviously, you clearly loved it.
He clearly likes it.
Yeah, he really, really enjoys it. 10 out of 10, better than Parasite. But yeah. So my thoughts on the original, like not the original, the first Mario movie of this at least franchise, I guess. I was very lukewarm on it. I think it did what it wanted to do. I mean, I wasn't expecting high art from that film at all. I think what it did set out to do, it certainly succeeded in some way. So I wasn't, but I didn't really have much aspiration to come back to it just because I guess it's part of me. It isn't because I don't connect with the Mario characters or the brand. I mean, yeah, I played the games growing up like everybody. I mean, I certainly enjoyed those games. But it's like I just didn't feel much of an emotional resonance to really come back to it because there isn't anything that gripping with it. There isn't anything that's like certainly like gonna keep me coming back for it because it's certainly just because all it really is just like every Illumination film, maybe outside of the first Despicable Me, is that it's just inoffensive fluff that leaves absolutely no impact outside of the box office numbers. Um, and that's pretty much the summary of this new one. Except I think doesn't it like barely does anything. I mean, because at least with the first film, like it at least had a pretty basic plot, even if it wasn't a good plot. Because you can kind of say it's like, okay, Mario has to go out and save Luigi. That's pretty much what the plot of the first film is. The second film is pretty much the same plot, except they're going out to save Princess Rosalina, but it's just like the steps it takes to get there are barely coherent. It doesn't, it tries to take a lot of directions, but it doesn't do anything. It tries to do its own, like, Avengers Endgame or whatever, where it's trying to, like, you know, try to have all these characters separated and going on their own subplots. But it's like, I just don't feel much momentum of what's going on at all. It's just sort of like, oh, remember this? Remember this? Remember this from the Mario Galaxy game? Remember Star Fox? I think you remember him too. And it's like, oh, remember, this planet where Bowser has his own planet? Like, remember that? Like, oh, remember the paintbrush? It's like, yeah, it's remember Rob, remember the robot Rob.
Who's not a Mario character, by the way.
yeah, remember
Same with Star Fox.
Remember Wart. He's played by Luis Guzman. Everybody loves him and Wednesday. And it's like, yeah, that's all it really is. It's just member berries at the end of the day. And it's like, and I know people like made fun of the whole member berries thing of like the Disney Star Wars stuff and the remakes or whatever. Which I'm not gonna go on praising those remakes, by the way. But I could at least say with like, the Star Wars stuff, it's like at least they had plots. At least it had a plot. At least it had some way to try to emotionally resonate with an audience. Here, it just doesn't. And yeah, these issues plagued the first film. They certainly do. But at least with the first film, it was simplistic enough. The plot was simplistic enough that I could see people at least somewhat grasping onto it. I do not see it with this film. and the fact that also it's probably from one of the most like thematic Mario games out there. I mean, I don't know if there's been anything more thematic than Super Mario Galaxy in the franchise. And because when you get down to it with these games, and yeah, we'll certainly go into it when we talk about the next film too. But when you go down to these games, they're pretty simple. Like they're not really anything to emotionally resonate with that heavily. They're not like the Metroid series. They're not like Legend of Zelda. They're very much different from that because obviously, they're the precursor for video games. It's like that's pretty much the nature of the Mario games. It's like they're the precursor. Now every video game that ever exists has a lot owed to Nintendo and the Mario franchise. But I think it's more or less that the fact that in those games, you pretty much do not get much time to really resonate with the characters quite as much, at least in the early versions of them. And then I think Super Mario Galaxy certainly did, certainly stepped up with that. I mean, it had more emotionally resonant themes. It actually, you actually got to see, Mario like more of a personality. Same thing with, all the other characters. So it is a case where, there was a way to resonate with these characters. But I think with the fact that, this film doesn't barely gives you any time to resonate with the characters, does the bare minimum and just tries to rely on the Easter eggs that, were were present in the first one, but are just further amplified here. It's just not it's not a fulfilling experience at all. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's like abrasive at points with the references. And now the fact that they're bringing in non-Mario characters in the Mario universe, like if there was one thing that the film, I probably still wouldn't have liked this, but if there was one thing this film could have done was made the reveal of Fox McCloud a surprise. But whoever the brilliant minds are at Illumination who thought of this, they decided to reveal that a week before the movie came out. It's like, dude, you've hid it for this long. Like, why did you fumble at like the end zone pretty much? Like, just wait another week. And that would have been, I would have been mad still, but it's like, okay, that would have been something that I remember. But it's like going in, it's like, okay, I know Fox is going to be in this movie. And the only reason why he's there is because there's no Mario characters that fly around in starships. It's so shameless and cynical that they just even brought that in. And it's clear that they are trying to lay the groundwork for either a Star Fox solo film or a Super Smash Brothers like multiverse type film, which that's going to be, if it's done by Illumination, like I don't even want to see it because there's going to be no plot. It's just going to be 50 billion Nintendo characters with nothing to latch onto emotionally. And basically, okay, I will be 100% honest. I have not beaten Super Mario Galaxy. I've played it, but it's been a while. But I have some friends who are really, really into that game. And everything, I echo a lot what you say, where that game definitely developed the Mario formula and lore to something more than just, oh, Plumber hops on turtles. Like there's something there. So the fact that that name is being attached to this film just as an excuse to redo the first film is so slimy and shameless because like it really has nothing to do with Mario Galaxy besides the fact that, oh, Rosalina's in it. And they have the Common Observatory and like the Gateway Galaxy, and that's pretty much it. Like there's some locales, but otherwise, you could have just called this Super Mario Odyssey movie, and it wouldn't have made a difference. Like if all you're gonna do is have Rosalina basically just play the save the princess trope, what a horrible way to use that character, because that character has so many fans, and there's you could actually play into that and something interesting, have her be an interesting character, fly alongside Mario. But no, she's just like locked in a glass tube for majority of the film, kind of like how Luigi was sidelined in the first movie. But it's not like he's probably given less to do in this sequel somehow, as is all the other characters, except maybe Bowser. But yeah, then they do, what else even? It's hard to formulate like into words like what happens because there's no identifiable act breaks. There's no sense of momentum or flow. Like I said, they just edited like 7 episodes of like a cartoon into one and said like, oh, that's the movie. It's almost like some of those Disney direct-to-video sequels that were just 3 episodes of a canceled TV show just stitched together and here's your movie. Like, but at least those were direct to video and you're not paying $15 to see it in the theater. Like, why, honestly? And if there's spoilers, do we even want to say spoilers?
Yeah,
with this
I don't
movie?
know if there's too much to spoil since the film's marketing did it. But yeah, spoilers for the Super Mario Brothers Galaxy movie. Skip to the next time code if you don't want to get spoiled. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, if you care about spoilers for this movie, but it's revealed that Rosalina and Peach are sisters too, which is not canon, obviously. They just pulled that out of nowhere just so they could have this force like, oh, they got the Super Mario Brothers. Now they got, I don't know, the Super Princess Sisters. Like, it's so cringy and like just forced in. And then the whole stuff they do with Bowser was such a waste of time, which had one of the most forced arcs, or not even arcs, but just out of nowhere character shifts for like no friggin' reason, where Bowser, Mario, and Luigi and Toad, they pair up a la Super Mario RPG, and you think they're going to be best buddies to essentially get to his son, Bowser Jr., played by Benny Safdie of all people, the guy who one of the directors of Uncut Gems and Good Time is in this movie, which is friggin' hilarious, to tell you the truth. And to his credit, he didn't do a awful job voice acting. Granted, he has like voice synthesizer, but I'm glad to see he's getting paid. But yeah, then he's like, oh, he loves spending time with his son. They try to do this whole like father-son like message that I guess is supposed to resonate with the parents who got dragged by their kids. And then out of nowhere, he's like, oh wait, no, I'm the villain. Like all that development to make something interesting about the villain teaming up with the hero, absolutely thrown in the garbage. No development further. And then it just ends sort of. He becomes Dry Bowser. They fight. The end. Like, so, I'm like the film. I just ramble and then just like nothing really happens. So,
yeah, and the thing is, I give a lot of credit to the voice cast. I mean, and yeah, like the obvious, make fun of Chris Pratt joke here, but for some reason
he still sucks in this movie.
Oh yeah, he still does. Like Mushroom Kingdom, here we come. I'm thinking no. Like he does, but I think I noticed is that they actually didn't like give him that many lines in this film. The more I thought back,
which is really funny. He's the hero.
It's like you're sort of stuck getting tied to Chris Pratt now. Like this whole character is. So it's like, yeah, we're just gonna focus on the other guys. And to be fair, like the voice cast is serviceable. Like I don't think Donald Glover as Yoshi really did much. I mean, yeah, he was very accurate in how Yoshi sounded. Like
I wish I got paid to make Yoshi noises for like however much he got paid. I'm sure the original voice actor of Yoshi is like destroying their room, a la Charles Foster Kane at the end of Citizen Kane,
or Tommy Wiseau in the room.
oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Don't disrespect Tommy Wiseau, guys.
Yeah. Sorry for referencing the imitation and not the original.
Yeah, most definitely. But I give the voice cast credit. Like they, seem to do very well. I mean, I'm being charged that they as Luigi and Jack Black as Bowser are still the big standouts. Just because their voices do fit very well into the characters. Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach is fine. I mean, Brie Larson barely given any time.
Hardly in it,
which just sucks because I see her in the marketing for this film and like she's a huge Mario nerd. Like and so it's like the fact that you shafted like probably one of your biggest fans who is acting in this film and only give him like 2 minutes of screen time. It's like, or even just like not even any lines at all. It's like, what are you doing? It's like you're not giving any.
I think she has more than 2 minutes, but like she has no dialogue basically.
Yeah, well, it felt like 2 minutes. Like that's what it felt like. And then
true.
like as a Ray's in this film, and she's like only plays the Honey Queen, only for a few lines. And it's like, okay, quick paycheck there. Louise Guzman gets a quick check. Gwen Powell gets a quick check. And it's like, yeah, they're not bad actors. I mean, Benny Safdie actually does pretty reasonably well as like Bowser Jr. So it's like you're wasting the talents of this cast who, are obviously huge fans. Like even Chris Pratt said he's like a huge Metroid fan, oddly enough. And you're just like putting them in this film that just pretty much is just headache inducing eye candy. Because yeah, the animation's improved. Like it's certainly good animation. It's very colorful, very vibrant, but after a while, I was legit getting a headache while looking at it because it was throwing so much stuff at you and so many colors. Like, this isn't Spider-Verse, guys. Like this, it's like they're not. Yeah, sure, it's good animation and Illumination. To be fair, the animation department's not bad. I think the animation, obviously their style of animation is much more simplistic compared to other studios. Like there isn't too much detail to the character designs. They're just all very angular and stuff like that. But, but for Illumination, they're pretty much like, a family friendly studio that is pretty inoffensive outside of just, offending your wallet. But it's like the nature of these this like film, it's just like it's just so headache inducing, trying to throw so much at you without any substance at all. Like it's like it's a waste of the talents of these animators. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these filmmakers are very passionate about this franchise. But and and we'll dive into the issue a little more, but obviously Nintendo has such a corporate stranglehold on these characters. And who's the better animation studio to use than Illumination, because they play it safe with these characters. I mean, they probably wouldn't want to go to Disney. I mean, they probably wouldn't want to go to DreamWorks. They went to Illumination because Illumination, plays it safe. That's what they do. And not to say that Illumination hasn't been able to make quality films before. Like I said, Despicable Me, even though like, yeah, it's not the greatest film, like you can at least say it emotionally resonated in some way. I mean, there's reasons why it was successful. I mean, and all things considered, like, the Minions movies are not the worst thing either. I mean, they're initially like, well, I remember when Minions came out that people were like, it's the worst thing ever. It's like, it's really much an offensive comedy. That's all it really is. It doesn't really do anything to push the boundary, but hey, it's just there to amuse your kids. It's not going to do anything boundary pushing, but it's not, doesn't mean it's like the worst thing in the world. And I initially had the same thoughts about the first Mario movie, and I guess I sort of still do. But I think it's like this one, I felt, oddly enough, I felt more the cynicism with this one than I did the last one. And that's just kind of where it's like, it's just like, yeah, it's a kid's movie, but it's like, don't you think kids deserve better than this? I mean, you think they should see these characters that are actually, gonna, actually make them resonate with them even more, despite the fact that, yeah, they could play them in a video game after the film's done? Like, kids deserve better,
Yeah, we're literally having like a similar conversation to what we talked about 3 years ago when we discussed the first Mario movie. And I echo a lot of that. It's like all the defenders of this film, all of it comes back to it's for kids. Stop taking it so seriously. Which one, that's not entirely true, because if this film is for kids, why are there esoteric Nintendo references to like Rob, the Super Scope, I guess Fox McCloud to some extent, or maybe I'm reading too into this because I know my Nintendo history, but there's like maybe a subtle reference to Yoshi Safari, which was like a rail shooter for the Super Nintendo. Like, what 5-year-old is going to know that? But anyway, two, the fact that they always say it's for kids. Kids deserve better. Like, we have good kids movies like Spider-Verse, or even this year, Hoppers. And the reason why I fell in love with Pixar, for example, was not just because I didn't get a dopamine-fueled sugar high from it, but it was because I felt invested in the characters. And I felt like retroactively, it was treating my younger self with respect, whereas this film does not treat you with respect. It doesn't treat your children with respect, because it just thinks your children only want to see like flying colors for 90 minutes. And just I agree, the cynicism of this film seemed a lot more apparent, because you would think with the sequel, even if it wasn't necessarily, it got mixed reviews from what I remember. I know the people that really disliked it, but it's still, you would think they would have learned in some way. I knew because it was Illumination, I wasn't going to see much improvement, but at the end of the day, kids deserve good films too. And because they're so young, you can learn good morals from that. You can actually get something out of it. And I kind of remember now what I was talking about was the fact that, did I expect much improvement based on the fact that it was Illumination and the fact that the Minions sequels got even worse than the first film? I guess maybe I shouldn't have, and I feel stupid for thinking that I would have seen more improvement, but it just seemed like even Nintendo is enabling this, because, and we'll talk about this maybe more later on in the film recommendation, but they really just do not want to take any ounce of a risk that they think might damage their property, but which I think makes no sense, because they still rewrote the lore for like Rosalina and Peach, which, yeah, it's not like a massive change, but it's still like you rewrote something. You changed your history to some degree. If you wanted this to be squeaky clean, you wouldn't have done even that. So they are willing to take that much of a step. Like, okay, we could change it to some degree, but like, why not have these characters actually do something interesting? Like, there's no reason that says Mario and Luigi should not have any arcs. There's no reason that says the story should not have any stakes or consequences. There's no excuse. You just decided not to do it, and that's what pisses me off. It actively said, we do not want to try. And that's why I was getting upset watching the film. Not so much getting a headache, but also I was just kind of like bored because nothing was really happening. And the only time stuff did happen, I just got frustrated because it was just pandering to Nintendo fans, and also didn't learn from the way the film used the Mario music from Koji Kondo. Like I said in the Bijou Banter discussion from years ago, I remember I was just ranting about how they just kind of plopped random Mario scores wherever they felt like it. And it's same here. Like, they played Gusty Garden Galaxy during one of the fight sequences, which did not correlate at all. Like, that's something used for like an expansive, like, whoa, discovering the world, like not an action scene. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, at the end of the day, it's like I can understand, like, it's like you're trying to masquerade themselves in Easter eggs to make it sort of come off that they're really passionate about, this property, these characters, which I'm sure the creatives are. I mean, people forget, and this is especially true of like the current state of Disney animation too, is that these creatives are genuinely good people. It's more or less the studio that they work for that is very cynical. And so they're sort of trying to masquerade these creators, these passionate people, their love for the Mario brand all over this film. But underneath that oasis, underneath that mirage, it's basically just corporate cynicism. And it's more apparent in animated films than it is in like maybe live action films. I mean, yeah, you get the same sort of cynicism from the Disney live action remakes, but it's like the way studios see animation still, it's like they don't see it as a legit art form. They just see it as stuff they could advertise to kids and then is an easy moneymaker. Like, that's the nature of it. Like, that's how it's still a shame that they still see it this way, especially after Spider-Verse. Like, that's definitely pushed the boundaries. It's like and of course, like Phil Lord and Chris Miller are still pushing the boundaries with it. Sony's pushing the boundaries. DreamWorks is pushing the boundaries. I mean, yeah, sure, Disney probably isn't pushing the boundaries as much as they used to, but they're still like putting a lot of dedicated work into their animated films, even if they're not the most well-realized ideas. I mean, you see that more in their sequels than you do their original projects. It's like Illumination just has the wrong idea about it because, like, well, Illumination, like their whole like catalog outside of what their live-action Hop movie are all sequels and films based off of properties. Like, they got the Dr. Seuss films, Secret Life of Pets, Despicable Me, and now the Mario movies. And it's like they're not doing anything to take the risk.
Could you imagine if they did a Mario movie in the style of Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo? How that, for those that don't know, like that game has an art style as if it was like drawn by a crayon, and it's a gorgeous looking game, especially for the time. But like, also have some heart. Like, make the characters interesting. Make me care about what's happening. Like, that's the thing. If for whatever reason the Mario movie, let's say they're going to do a third one. Probably because this movie is going to make $1 billion. And if they decided to change up the art style but didn't change a thing about the story, I still don't think the movie would necessarily improve because, yeah, the animation in the Super Mario Galaxy movie is not bad. It's colorful. The model work may not be as like detailed as some other animation studios, but it's literally 99% icing and 1% cake. That's not enough for me to bring the score up higher. Like, oh, it's colorful. Sure, it doesn't look drab and dreary, but Like I just don't care about what's happening like at all. You're not showing me anything. Yeah, God. It's hard not to repeat myself too, just because it literally just felt like the same movie again. It's like I had deja vu. So
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. I think it's like I'm a little bit more, you know. I think I'm just a little bit more like, upset with this one than I was with the last one. I mean, I felt like I wasted my time. It's funny that this came out on April Fool's Day, because it
what a
is the
fitting
biggest
joke.
joke, like, of a film to
Fool me
watch.
once,
That
fool
they,
me twice.
yeah, never again. um, yeah, I mean, even if they make a sequel, I don't know if I'm gonna make the aspiration to go out to see it, just because, like, I don't want to go settle for the same thing. Like,
If we're still doing this podcast, will we go see the new one?
Uh, I don't know, Matthew. I don't know.
Yeah. I will say this. I have a little more hope for the Zelda movie that's coming out next year, because at least that's live action, not done by Illumination, and the guy they're getting to direct it is Wes Ball, who I never saw the Maze Runner films, but he did Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes, which is good. So it feels like maybe hopefully that one will take itself seriously and not just be an IP meme fest. But yeah, that might be the last straw. I was like, okay, if the Zelda movie isn't good, Nintendo films are cursed, pretty much.
Yeah,
So
pretty much. Yeah. I guess final thoughts now.
it movie sucked. it, absolute waste of art. Honestly, it's just all in all horrible. Not worth your time. Doesn't give literally nothing of value either. There's no lessons to take away from. There's no characters I remember. It's colorful, and I guess Benny Safdie tried. The actors got paid, which is good. I hope the animators got paid, but yeah, there's nothing here. It's one of the worst like mainstream animated films I've seen in the past few years. Not saying it's the worst, but in terms of recent video game movies too, this is an awful adaptation in every way. I hope to never see this again like I did the first film. And who knows? Very unlikely that the third film will improve anything, but otherwise, like, yeah, I'm upset, but also I shouldn't even be surprised at this point. Like, I'm upset that I wasted money and time seeing it, not wasting time talking to you about it, because this is very cathartic, but otherwise Super Mario Galaxy movie was horrendous. 1 out of 10.
Yeah, like I said, you clearly loved it. But yeah,
Worthy of Kubrick.
Yeah. Yeah, what does that guy know? But yeah, not good. I think it's, I could understand, like, parents want just, they just want to give their kids something to, like, distract them for an hour and a half. This probably isn't the worst thing. I mean, I think, it's still, like, visually, it's not the worst thing. Although, yeah, it does give me a headache. But it's still, it's very well animated. It has pretty colors, but yeah, there's just nothing underneath this at all. I mean, I think we've seen animated films come a long way, and we're advocates of animation. And I think it's not a genre; it's a medium. I mean, I think that's one thing people have to understand about it. I mean,
and not just for kids either.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm not expecting, and then I see like those people on Twitter, like, write about like, oh, what, you want to have Mario go through like a depressing, like, drunk story arc? It's like, no, obviously I don't want that. But I do want at least some substance in these films. Like, I do, because, I think there is a way you can make a movie like this work. Because, yeah, video game movies have come a long way ever since. And yeah, well, like I said, we'll get into more with the next film. But I, but it's like, I do think we could get something better, like something better, something that could actually, do something that's impactful. Yeah, sure, you want it to make money. That's Illumination's goal. That's Nintendo's goal. I mean, that's why they made these movies to begin with. They just want to capitalize on the fans of the games, on the family audiences where their kids drag their parents to go see this movie just so they could shut up for half an hour. But they deserve more. Those people deserve more. They deserve some substance, some sort of emotional resonance with this, piece of source material that is impactful in terms of our modern pop culture. But and Illumination and Nintendo, they just want to fill up their pockets. That's all they want to do. And this isn't dismissing the creativity that the animators put in, that the work the actors put in, all things considered. But it's just like, at the end of the day, you could see it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's a film that, is clearly made just to fill the pockets of some greedy businessmen. Like, that's what it is. So it's easy to read through that cynicism. And that's how I feel about it. It's like, sure, it may seem inoffensive on the surface, but at the end of the day, like, you're going to support, the actual creatives that worked on this, or you're going to support the studios that are not even bothering to give them the necessary resources or the free reign to try to create something meaningful. And that's the unfortunate part about it, because I could tell these people worked hard on it, but man, like, I am sick of that. I'm very sick of seeing studios do this. But so yeah, I think I give it like a generous like 2 to 3 out of 10. Just because I could at least say that, like I said, the animation and the voice acting isn't the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if I lower it. So, but yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to Nintendo and movies, they act like they're on the verge of bankruptcy, but they print money, literally.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they do.
I don't think a box office bomb will sink their studio, or their industry.
No,
but
it wouldn't. I mean,
speaking of box office bombs,
yeah, or bombs,
Oh, true.
Yeah, box office bombs. Yeah, it's your rec. You introduced the other shit stain.
Yeah. So, I, like I said in the last episode, I decided to pair the Super Mario Galaxy movie with another Mario movie, and not the Super Mario Brothers movie. It is Super Mario Brothers 1993, which was the first feature-length live-action video game adaptation. It is, oddly enough, not the first Mario movie, because there was a Mario anime mini movie. I don't want to say a short film, but it's like 50 minutes long, only released in Japan. It was called Great Rescue of Princess Peach, which honestly is probably the best Mario film adaptation out there. But I didn't think there'd be much to talk about for that as a rec. But this one is rather infamous for being a notorious disaster, seemingly starting a curse of bad video game film adaptation, and also turned Nintendo so off from making any video game or any film adaptations of their games for literally 30 years. They didn't bother trying until 3 years ago. And what is interesting about this film is the fact that it is a Mario movie, obviously, but it strays far away from the game. It does not take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. It tells the story of Mario and Luigi. Mario's played by Bob Hoskins. Luigi's played by John Leguizamo, who rescue Princess Daisy, not Princess Peach, from the evil President Koopa, played by Dennis Hopper, who is the leader of this underground parallel universe called Dino Hatton. And it's a universe where dinosaurs and humans coexist, and it's under the Brooklyn Bridge. And then Mario and Luigi have to save Princess Daisy because she holds this rock around her neck that could, I guess, prevent the two worlds from merging, which King Koopa wants to do to take over the world. And no, I did not just come up with those ramblings out of nowhere. That is the plot of this movie. It's actually insane. And it's kind of interesting. I had seen this film before a long time ago, and I remember thinking it was one of the strangest things I'd ever seen. How is this a Mario movie? And I don't think it's good, but I kind of appreciate it for just how weird and wacky it is, and the fact that unlike the two Illumination films, it tries. Like it really does try, but man, the execution just makes no sense. What did you think about this?
I think there were probably worse things than the Bridge. But this is my first time seeing this film. Oddly enough, my introduction to it wasn't really, because I wasn't high in the video game sphere growing up. I mean, yeah, sure, I played the Mario games. I played a lot of Wii. I didn't even get a PlayStation until like middle school, oddly enough. But my introduction was everybody's favorite internet critic, Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was actually
early review.
one of his earliest reviews of it. And so that's how I guess you could say I watched it because, of course, the Nostalgia Critic ran into a lot of copyright issues back in the day. Which, it seems like they got better now, but obviously their skits are not good. But but obviously that's how I watched it, and I didn't think too much of it. I haven't watched the full film because it hasn't been available, oddly enough. I mean, I've just been
Yeah,
physical copies in some areas. I mean, I said the last episode you couldn't find like any sort of physical copy of it, but they do exist. They're just can't release
we could
it.
talk more about that later too.
Yeah,
There's some
we
interesting
could.
stuff.
But yeah, they're pretty much scarce in some respects just because Nintendo's like copyright stuff on it. And I guess oddly enough, it was a Disney film too, since it was released by Buena Vista Pictures.
Was it?
Yeah, Buena Vista. They were owned by Disney.
Oh, Hollywood Pictures.
Yeah, they were owned by Disney.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was through somehow it was Disney. I don't know how. But yeah, it is somehow does count, but in some respects loosely. So wasn't able to find the copy of it, so I just sort of avoided it. I mean, I missed the after hours, like it was screened because that was like pre-COVID. I was very busy pre-COVID. But anyway, I haven't, seen it before this week. Luckily, thank God for the Internet Archive. They keep art, even the biggest trash in the world. Minus all the 600 Looney Tunes cartoons that are somehow still missing in the internet. You have to find those, really dig for them. But I watched it, and it's like my impression is that these are definitely more entertaining than the Illumination films. Still not a good movie. Definitely like flawed beyond compare. Like even if this wasn't a Mario movie, the plot is so nonsensical and so like incomprehensible that it's sort of hard not to enjoy the disaster that's occurring right in front of you. And yeah, you could see there was effort put into this one. I mean, Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper are probably the best actors in this movie. We'll get into that as well. And yeah, the visual effects are pretty decent. Some of them, not all of them. But, it is a rather interesting case of the first video game movie and how video game movies in and of itself were sort of flawed, like whenever adapting it. And, we could probably take some of our Christopher Gates knowledge from that video game class we took in college together. But it's like, yeah, I mean, video games themselves, like completely different art form from film. Because video games, it's like you have the ability to control where your character goes and what your character does. Movies, you really don't. And I think with the fact that they chose Mario as like the first subject, there really wasn't much to build on top of, oddly enough, because, at this point, I mean, yeah, Mario was an established character, but what was his personality outside the games? Like, how can you describe both of their personalities? Um, you didn't really get that until like much later down the line. So you're sort of in like a situation where like Nintendo was like, yeah, I mean, we're open to the experimentation of it, and that's what Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jangle did. It's like, they experimented with it, they took risks. They weren't good risks, but they somehow succeeded in making something that was relatively entertaining despite not being good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so much of this I think necessitates context of when this came out, because this being the first video game film adaptation in the States, you make a good point that especially at the time, the newest Mario game, I believe, at least on the home console, was Super Mario World. And even still, like that expanded to like Yoshi, but there was the Mario formula was still, oh, he's got to save the princess, adventure through the Mushroom Kingdom, and that was it. There was no depth to the character. But obviously, the reason why they chose Mario to be the first film adaptation is like he was the most recognizable character. Like I don't think it would be wise to do a Pong film as the first
yes, let's go
video game movie.
I want to see some.
But it's hockey. It's just challengers basically. But yeah, so I appreciate like you could tell the fact that video games were seen as not maybe in quote a lesser art and more just a toy. The filmmakers had to experiment. Literally, you had to sort of break away from the formula. And this one, a lot of people assume that with Super Mario Brothers, this movie, that Nintendo didn't really have creative input, but no, they gave a lot of creative freedom to the filmmakers to basically reinvent and experiment with the brand, because at that point, Mario was literally untouchable. Like Sonic was fairly new at the time, so there was the classic Sega Nintendo rivalry, but still Mario was the video game king. So Nintendo, I think, almost was a bit full of themselves, thinking like, oh, we're too big to fail at this rate. So it's cool that they even allowed them to make this and just really just go off the walls crazy with the plot. And it's also worth noting that this history behind this film is also important too, because this was an absolute disaster of a production. There's a really good video by the gaming historian who unfortunately just recently announced that he's no longer making videos. But he was a super talented YouTuber. He's still alive, by the way. He's not dead, but he's just no longer making content. But he made a video about 10 years ago detailing the production of this film, and it really just shows that the directors were actually kind of crazy, because they were kind of control freaks in the fact that they just didn't really allow much creative input. They had their vision. The studio probably wasn't going to let them do this. And the fact that the script was rewritten like 10 different times or something. It started off as a more fantasy plot similar to The Wizard of Oz, but then it became infused into this like weird Blade Runner influence, like tech noir with dinosaurs and rocket boots and like actually madness. Like it's kind of hard to describe, but the fact that it even exists and the huge swings it takes is super commendable. My problem with the film overall is that, similar to the Illumination films, like just it establishes a lot with the world, but the plot itself is just practically non-existent. It just sort of jumps around all over the place. And if there's one thing about the film that I love is the production design. The production design is awesome. Like that set of Dino Hatton is real pretty much. They built a real set and it feels alive. It feels bustling too. But man, the story that's told against that awesome backdrop is just so nonsensical and stupid. The tone doesn't work either, because on the one hand, it tries to be like this gritty Akira type future film, but then all the action scenes has got this like really goofy toned music, which is done by Alan Silvestri too, which he clearly just threw it in. He collected the check, but man, there's so much stuff here where I wish I liked it more, because as a Mario adaptation, it's terrible. It's a terrible adaptation, but if it were an original concept, I think there's something there, but you still got to tell a good story on top of that. And it's a shame because you can tell they put thought into the setting too. Like even little details like the vehicles, everything's run on electricity. Why is that? It's because everyone's dinosaurs, so there's no fossil fuels. So there's no gas. That's clever. That's really kind of interesting. But you don't really think about that because you're not engaged with the plot. I don't care about the characters really. The acting ranges from fine to like awful in some cases, for better or for worse. Like it's really all over the place. The
Yeah,
film.
it's like you could see the effort on screen. I mean, David Snyder, like the same production designer for
Yeah.
Blade Runner, like
Mm-hmm.
is the one that does all the set design here, which is it's really amazing. Of course, the visual effects, like apparently for the puppet for Yoshi, like they had the Jurassic Park producers visit on set to see how it looked, and apparently they briefly considered hiring the engineers for the second film, and I guess that didn't happen for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's very interesting that like this film, like even with its like bad reputation, especially for video game movies, like has this level of creativity in some respects. Even if like yeah, it's very misguided and the way it's directed is very incoherent. Like when you arrive to the Dino Hatton location, it looks great, but you just can't comprehend what's going on once you get there. And I can understand that, like, okay, maybe they're just trying to like make it put us in the shoes of the characters as they're trying to search for the Daisy character. But it's like it's just the editing is just doesn't give you any room to like think about like how crammed the space is or how wide it is. It just doesn't. I mean, it has character for sure, like it really does, but it just you can barely get a sense of space at all and how this whole location is, and a lot of continuity edit failures too, and just it's crazy like how much this film is like so misguided and how it's just presented like they really like fumbled the ball when it came to the presentation and the assembly of this film. So it's really incoherent in that regard, and yeah, the acting's not good. I mean, like I said, Hoskins is probably the one that's at putting in effort into into his performance. Like he actually does sort of work as Mario in some respects. He's just not given that much to work with. Dennis Hopper, like I don't know, he's like fuck it, I'm just gonna
Amazing.
he's just gonna act weird, you know.
Yeah,
He's
he's
hilarious
awesome.
hilarious in this movie. Like, um, but John Leguizamo, like, not good casting as a Ouija.
I
um,
I forgot how bad he was in this film. He just man, like you could tell that Bob Hoskins didn't. There were points where he just didn't care, but he was such a great actor where he could sell almost anything. But like Leguizamo is no Bob Hoskins. Like when he doesn't care, you can tell he just does not want to be there. And like especially given the fact that he has, I guess, more of the emotional arc because he has the love interest in Daisy. He does not sell those scenes well. The two of them have zero chemistry. And honestly, Samantha Mathis, who plays Daisy, I think she's the worst actor in the film. Like I like her first line reading when the Scolari bro or the the other plumber company they go to the dig site. I don't remember what the line was, but just the way the line reading was just so unconvincing and just like, man, I'm sure she tried, but it did not read like that in the performance. And like all her lines are very flat and not believable at all. Yeah. Did you ever read like the interviews from some of the cast and crew? Like
I read
after,
Hoskins' interview, and that
yeah,
is it's pretty
it was
hilarious.
hilarious.
Yeah, like he
Yeah. Where's
completely railed into the directors who, um, Rocky Martin and Amanda Jaffe Jankel, Annabelle Jankel.
yeah.
They like apparently this is like their one of their only feature films. Like apparently they did the Max
Yeah.
Headroom games, so I guess it sort of made sense for why they chose them, but like they clearly do not have a sense of, style or flair that works that well with this property at all. And even without the having Mario attached to it, it's such a mess from a direction standpoint. And because, like I said, the blocking here it just isn't good. And yeah, sure, there's some scenes that are competently shot for sure. I mean, it definitely does try to like establish like location, but it just does such a bad job at doing it. Like I can barely get a sense of like, where characters are in certain scenes. It's not good.
Yeah, Morton and Jankel. I think this is still they haven't directed a movie since Super Mario Brothers because they like this like killed their reputation. Not just the fact that the film was bad, but also I think word got out about the way they handled the set. Like they weren't like abusive or anything, but just the fact that they were very overbearing with their vision that like really destroyed any chance to get like more work. But they you're right, they did Max Headroom, the TV pilot, and they also directed a lot of music videos. They did videos for Talking Heads and the Tom Tom Club, for example. And you kind of sense that like MTV energy in the film, especially in Dino Hatton, but like basic dialogue scenes are just I agree. You don't get a sense of the space. It's not interestingly shot when especially in New York before they go into Dino Hatton. It's just the most boring setups, boring locations. It looks like the Seinfeld backlot, basically. Like I don't believe they're in like a real environment necessarily, and they can't get the emotional moments out right either with the drama because the the tone also conflicts a lot too. Like I sense that they wanted this to be taken more seriously because they went down this really weird futuristic society angle, but then you got stuff like the Goombas, like the design of the Goombas, where they're these huge bodies with these like comically small heads and this goofy smile too. And they're meant to be intimidating, but they just look like, I just look at that and I just like laugh. It's like, it looks so stupid. Like, why did you design it that way? And because it's so rooted in realism too, like none of the anthropomorphic like dinosaur characters have like any personality or charm. Like the Yoshi equivalent is just like a generic looking dinosaur that looked like it walked off the set of Jurassic Park, which by the way came out like 2 weeks after this movie did. So like everyone forgot about the Super Mario Brothers movie when it came to dinosaurs because Jurassic Park took over. And yeah, like it's an interesting looking film from the production design, but not necessarily from a color palette either. There's a lot of like grays, the fungus, which is like this like vomit green almost. It's not very appealing. And the only reason why there's color in the movie is because the Mario brothers put on their Mario outfits for no discernible reason. Like they just happened to find it. It's like, wow, I'm surprised you even went that far to even have them in the outfits, to tell you the truth, because you changed so much. And yeah. Also interesting use of CGI as well. Like the CGI it's definitely dated. It's corny, but I'm sure for the time it was pretty like, oh, this is like kind of innovative, like the face merging and stuff, which yeah, there's some charm. Like the movie's bad, but I certainly do not hate it like at all. Like it's so weird and wacky that I kind of like it for that reason. But and this movie has a lot of like really diehard fans who like think like, oh yeah, this is like peak video game cinema. I'm just like, no, I can't go that far. It's still not good. I will never defend this as a good movie.
No, it's definitely not a good movie. I think it's like because you could tell there's just so many issues with it, and because I think even if like you take, like I say, you take the Mario character out of it, it's not still doesn't work as a plot. It doesn't work as a story, and it just really, like I said, it just doesn't really work at all. Like it's horrible. Like I think like, but there is an enjoyment out of how bad it is. Like there because I think it's like, yeah, I could see the efforts put on screen, but it's not the best effort. I mean, it's sort of like a room level of bad in some cases where it's like, I mean, yeah, sure, it's probably a little more competently directed than the room. But I can at least say that it does have some sort of the entertainment value of like when things go like unintentionally wrong and backfire, and those backfires are clear as day. It's hard not to enjoy like the schlock that's in front of you. Like it really, and so I think in that way, like yeah, it sort of just it does embrace like the level of like messiness that video game movies have had since. And yeah, I've gotten better, but it's like yeah, how I don't know how you can defend this as like a good movie. I think you can defend it as an entertaining one, but not a good one.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that okay, because for many years, this and arguably still, this movie has such a negative reputation because people say like, oh, it sucks because it's nothing like the Mario games and they changed all this stuff around. But then it's interesting how now looking back, not to say it was retroactive because this film always had its fans, but when basically what fans think they want is literally just the game in a different media form where you're not in control, a la the new Mario movies, where, as we've discussed in depth, don't change a thing about the games. They play it so safe and there's no risks taken, and that's deemed acceptable. Whereas I always thought, like, if you're a fan of something, wouldn't you want some bit of change in store with, like, to make you appreciate the franchise even more? Which is what I think this film actively tried to do. Like, it really just said, we're going to try and be our own thing and reinvent this in a way. But the problem is the execution. I think that's what's important is execution. Execution is king in this situation where, yeah, you can be as inventive and freewheeling as you want, but tell a good story first. And they unfortunately didn't do that here. And I would honestly, to some extent, be more forgiving of the new Mario films. Yeah, they didn't change anything, but just like give me a story at the very least. So I guess this sort of comparison between the two is inevitable. But yeah, even after rewatching it, like I definitely would prefer to rewatch Mario 93 than either the Illumination films, just because I sense more the ambition there. And also there is a slight caveat because it was the first of its kind. They literally had nothing to go off of. There was no other precedent. So you kind of had to feel for these people to some extent, whereas now we have no excuse for not trying. So
yeah, and it sort of just leads into like, the point of emphasis that I wanted to sort of tap on when we were talking about Galaxy, but I think it works better when we're sort of comparing and contrasting. Is that there's just two things. The first thing is obviously that Nintendo is very protective of this brand. They've been protective of this brand ever since this film's failure. Just because, like, obviously they fumbled the ball so badly that, Nintendo didn't want to have any more adaptations of any of their properties. And it's sort of like the same way of what happened with, the Dr. Seuss adaptations, because,
oh god,
yeah, the Cat in the Hat. Like,
those are terrible.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, there's a charm to the Grinch one, not much to the Cat in the Hat one, but they bumbled them so badly that like Seuss's widow, said that they can no longer make any live action adaptations of his books, and so they put them into animation, which is how Illumination got the property, and it's interesting how it all sort of circles back to Illumination here, but. So I think, if you're in Nintendo's like shoes, it's like, yeah, you want to try to be safe with the brand because you don't want to try to like, boggle at the way these guys did. So like anything like is a step up. But I think it's just like I think they've gotten so protective of the Mario character and the brand itself that they're not leaving room for an experimentation. I mean, the closest they've had to like experimentation in the games, at least ever since, and yeah, sure, the 3D model of Mario and the other characters are now more recognizable, but initially they haven't, outside of like what Odyssey, Galaxy, I'm pretty sure there's a few others that have been out there, but they haven't really taken much risk with the character sense. Or really any of their properties, maybe outside of like what Legend of Zelda, of course, Metroid. They're at least because there's stories with those, but with Mario, it's like there never really was a story to begin with. It's like, going from point A to point B. And I think this is where Christopher Gates knowledge comes in, which, big shout out to him, of course, where, it's sort of like the appealing nature of the Mario games and video games in general is that you are just able to control what you can do with the characters. And obviously ever since video games have, gotten better, much better. Like instead of like the side scrolls now, you get the 3D, you get much more of a chance to explore the world you're in. So like Red Dead Redemption's a good example. Grand Theft Auto, of course. Like, there's been a lot of games that have since pushed the boundaries ever since, the Mario games have come out. And I think Mario is just such a big icon now. It's like Mickey Mouse level of icon that it's really hard to take a corporate risk on the character. And I think that's what is sort of the whole Nintendo has fallen into, because yeah, I can say Disney at least since has been able to develop the new Mickey Mouse cartoons with a little bit more of an edge. But with Mario, it's like there's nothing there really from a story level, nothing there from a character level. There's a way to identify the characteristics. There's a way to identify the personalities, but there is a way to put it in film form. But is Nintendo willing to take the risk and try to do that? And obviously with the recent release of the Mario Galaxy movie or whatever, they're not going to. They're clearly content at where the character's at, because hey, at the end of the day, we have money in our pockets, and even our most diehard fans are very satisfied with it, even if it's not anything emotionally fulfilling.
Yeah, and I don't expect, when I say I want Nintendo to take more risks, I do not expect them to ever tackle something like this ever again. So that's not what I'm saying. But Nintendo is bigger now than it was in 93, which is saying a lot, because it was the dominant game company for a decade, probably, if not more. So what's wrong with just trying to sort of experiment a little, go a little outside the box? Because one movie bomb is not going to destroy Nintendo as a company, because their Switch consoles are selling like hotcakes. People still love to play older Nintendo games, and they're not going away. So one failure, if they survived after the Virtual Boy, they're going to survive for a lot longer. Let's put it that way. They survived that. They survived after, obviously the Wii U was not a big hit, but it wasn't devastating to their brand. But I don't know, they're so afraid of failure, even though they kind of fail sometimes, just overall, is with the way they increase their prices, or they're so protective of their copyrights. So I don't understand why they just don't, that initiative just is no longer there. Was this level of creative control seen in this film, the 93 Mario movie, was that that scared them that hard, apparently, to the fact that they only want to try that? And I find that kind of a shame, because there is potential here, but I don't know, maybe they just don't want to do it with Mario. But are they going to risk doing a film based on one of their lesser known properties, or less more not unpopular ones? If they were to do a Metroid movie, how would they be more willing to experiment a bit? Will they do that with the Zelda movie, for example? Probably not with the Zelda movie, but Metroid is popular, but not Mario popular. Maybe there's some opportunity to play around with it, do something interesting. But I don't know. And it's kind of a fascinating, I always wonder, what if this movie, the Super Mario Brothers 93? What if it did well? What if it was well received and it actually made a lot of money? How would that change the direction of Nintendo to as we see it today? Like, would we have seen a Super Mario Brothers movie, the game, almost? Like, that would be fascinating. Like, yeah, but just unfortunately, the script was just not there.
Yeah, and it's also like interesting to see because video game movies have come a long way since. I mean, you know, the decade between the time between this film and maybe the late 2010s, there probably hasn't been much of a good video game movie to begin with. I mean, of course, Uwe Boll had his fair of like shitty video game movies, and I guarantee you, I'm not gonna guarantee it. He might just want to fight me and put me in a boxing match just because I called his films bad. But yeah, you had those films. You had the failure of like the Assassin's Creed film, the Hitman film. Like you've had a lot of Resident Evil, I guess, in a lot of cases.
Oh yeah, there's so many of those.
Yeah, there were a lot of those video game films that just never succeeded as adaptations, and they tried to like succeed, but they just couldn't find a way to do it. But I think it wasn't until, oddly enough, the Sonic movie, which by no means,
or Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, or Detective Pikachu, but by no means are those great movies. Obviously they're clearly made for a reason. But the reason why I mention the Sonic movie is that obviously when the original trailer came out, it was such major backlash over the design of Sonic. They made him a little bit too uncanny valley, and then they we did something wrong. They went back, they changed the design, and he looked more like the actual character. And ever since they made that change, I think people have been on board with those films. And yeah, sure, there's sort of like your generic, fish out of water, like animated character visits live action world, types of films, but they've obviously gotten much better since. I mean, I can't really say for like my opinion on them because I haven't seen them, but just hearing about, the fact that, the creators of those films are more than willing to like make the necessary improvements to like make this character work in this decade. And even if it could even if it doesn't even if it's like the most faithful to the Sonic lore, they're at least willing to be creative with it, but also respectful of it. And I think ever since that, we've gotten better video game stuff like Fallout, the TV show. That's an amazing show. You get Last of Us has been great. Obviously season 2 was a little bit of a mess, but like still you've got people that have actually learned how to like adapt this material into the modern age. And for some reason Mario was just sort of stuck in the dust. So
I mean, I guess also to compare modern video game adaptations is just the fact that video games have become a lot more cinematic. So to translate that into a cinematic medium is a lot easier now. So maybe, funny enough, thanks to this, well, I know like The Last of Us came out, the show came out around the same time the Mario movie did, the first one. But if we look at those two concurrently, like they're both faithful adaptations in the fact that one is a very heavily narrative-based game with a lot of emphasis on character growth and world building. And the other one really had no character. It was more just like, it was like a cartoon come to life. And in that regard, they're both accurate adaptations. So maybe this is just the direction, but there's some cases where if you want to be accurate, you can't just be that and have it translate smoothly into a new medium. I think that's the issue with Mario. It's just the fact that, as you've said, there really isn't that much of a story. You can't just say, oh, Mario goes to save I say that, but that's basically what the Illumination films did, and they suffer for that reason. But yeah, it's just hard to make an accurate yet engaging adaptation of the Mario character. It's like the same thing with Mickey Mouse. Like that's why we haven't seen not a live action, but a feature-length Mickey Mouse film, and the character's been around for nearly 100 years. So, yeah, it works well in cartoons, though. Like, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show from the 80s, yeah, it's cheesy, but it definitely feels more in spirit of the game as well. So maybe that's just the direction they should go down. What if we had a Mario cartoon like on Netflix or something right now?
I think it would work. I mean, I think
I'd be down. Like,
yeah, because
it'd be more acceptable too.
Yeah, because
there was people wouldn't be as harsh.
Yeah, because there was the Cuphead show, and that did reasonably well. And yeah,
There's been a lot of Sonic shows.
Yeah, and and obviously, the Cuphead show targeted more toward kids, but it was still successful. I mean, people of the fans of that game were very were praising it like crazy. But yeah, it is interesting. Because I think it's somebody said Mario is purely anti-cinema, which I wouldn't.
Anti-cinema.
I don't know if he is. I don't know if the brand is itself. I think it's more or less that it is a piece of source material that hasn't had the biggest success when it comes, at least critically, to adapt into feature film or film form. But I think there is a way to do it. I just don't know if Nintendo's willing to take the risk yet. And I think with the fact that this, the Galaxy movie is successful, it's yeah, they probably won't be. And, it just sort of does leave the 93 version in the dust a little bit, which yeah, they want to ease their minds of that. But, people are not going to forget it. People are just going to remember how bad it was and how much they enjoyed how bad it was. And yeah, sure, there's definitely people that genuinely love it. I know that for a fact. But
yeah, there's a whole database about it. SMB fan. I don't remember the exact name, but there is a fan website that has really helped springboard this cult following. And also there's fan-made director's cuts out there of this movie too.
Yeah, I believe what they were supposed to be an extended kind of somehow got leaked on Internet Archive. I forgot what it was, but
yeah, it was the original cut by Jankel and Morton because they had a different vision. I think Disney probably came in and was I don't know. The whole production is just such a crazy timeline. There were different scripts, there were different cuts. So basically, from what I recall, is that Jankel and Morton weren't able to edit the film. They didn't have that level of creative control. So the unofficial director's cuts are made from VHS work prints or something. And I still haven't seen those. What we watched was the theatrical cut. So I don't know, maybe that would I don't know if it would save it, but it would at least make some of the things more coherent because the problem, especially towards the end, it literally just becomes incomprehensible. Nothing happens. It just, they bumble around the destroyed World Trade Center in Dino-Hatton, which that aged well. And
yeah.
They fight Koopa. They merge into our world. He gets
de-evolved.
Demerged. De-evolved. Thank you. De-evolved by the SNES Super Scope. Yeah, it was a Super Scope that they painted. They win the end. And then the horrible ending too.
Oh yeah,
which is just a total cop out. They thought they were confident they were gonna get a sequel out of this, which oops.
No, they didn't. And they had the post credits scene where they were trying to make a joke about oh yeah,
That's
we're gonna make the Super Koopa Brothers or whatever. And man, that was
the closest it comes to being a video game adaptation.
Oh yeah, probably the closest. But that World Trade Center thing was wild. Watching that,
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's what the Spider-Man trailer from back in the day, and I guess they initially cut it out of the original Spider-Man film too. Is that they've had the World Trade Center appear for a moment, and then all of a sudden 9/11 happened, so they couldn't use it anymore because sympathies were very high at that time. But yeah, it's crazy that scene even exists.
Yeah, the image of not only the destroyed World Trade Center in Dino-Hatton, but also when the two parallel universes merge, like we see it like crumbling in the real world. It's like, oh God.
Oh man.
And it's very unfortunate, but you know, I can't blame the film for that. No one knew what was going to happen.
Oh yeah,
so.
They definitely didn't know. But
it's also one of those movies where it's kind of hard to really talk about the plot itself. It's just more the story surrounding it. Both the making and its legacy is way more interesting than the film itself, which is also kind of why I recommended it. It's just like there is a really interesting conversation surrounding the end product. It's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh yeah, I think it sort of has like what big Lebowski level of cult fan base in some sense. So I mean, I wouldn't say to a point where they're gonna praise Lord Dennis Hopper, but like
rest in peace.
Yeah, like dudism down here for the Big Lebowski is insane.
Koopaism.
But I don't know. It's really. It is insane, like the level of like fan interest that this film still has. And
I'm sure Nintendo loves that.
Oh yeah, I think it's like it's like Disney and Song and South. They try to shove that under the rug as much as they can, but they just can't get rid of it. And obviously, completely different situations, but in different types of films. But it is sort of like something that the studio is like personally ashamed of in some respects. But I don't know. I mean, it was all worth it to see Dennis Hopper just do whatever he wanted in this movie. Like monkey and
monkey, ba-bomb.
I think.
Where's my pizza?
Yeah, I love
stupid running gag.
Yeah, the pizza gag was so insane.
Yep. He had a really hilarious like interview too. Like Bob Hoskins, as we talked about earlier, he described it as like a nightmare, and I think he said that the directors, their arrogance was mistaken for talent, which is like, geez. But Hopper, he had a really hilarious quote in an interview. It was a nightmare, very honestly, that movie. It was a husband and wife directing team who were both control freaks and wouldn't talk before they made decisions. Anyway, I was supposed to go down there for 5 weeks, and I was there for 17. It was so over budget. Hopper added, quote, my 6-year-old son at the time, he's now 18, he said, Dad, I think you're a pretty great actor, but why did you play that terrible guy King Koopa in Super Mario Brothers? And I said, well, Henry, I did that so you could have shoes. And he said, Dad, I don't need shoes that badly.
Oh, man.
Smart kid.
Yeah, he probably wanted the new... he wanted the new Jordans. That's what he wanted. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, MJ was a big deal. 90s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it sums up pretty well. It's just like, okay, people just did this for, at least the actors, they did it for the money, but also I assume they signed on to a script that was probably not what the end product would entailed. So
yeah,
for
sure. I mean, I have Dennis Hopper quotes in my head for a long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, they like drank scotch in between shoots or something. Like they were getting drunk on the set.
Yeah, I don't blame them. That's probably why Leguizamo's performance came off. Like he was.
That
hammered.
Explains a lot. Yeah, he was probably smashed.
Yeah. So. But any other thoughts on this?
Not really. It's not good at all. As an adaptation, it's pretty abysmal, and a lot of the movie doesn't make a lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. But I find it fascinating as a film. Like watching it for the podcast. Like if we're to actually just like watch it, it's just like it's really kind of boring and tiresome to get through. But just knowing the history behind it and just how like kind of insane the film is, and the fact that it came together is what got me through it. And it does teeter on so bad it's good at points, especially with some of the acting, like particularly with Dennis Hopper, just some of the lines and just the scenarios too. But yeah, I have a weird soft spot for it, but I will also never, ever in a million years say, oh yeah, Super Mario Brothers 1993, it's a good film. No, it's not. It's bad. So I think I'll stick to a 3 out of 10. I think that's pretty fair. Like a part of me wants to give it 2, but it's like, no, there's too much wrong with it where I can't like bump it up that much. So I'd say a high 3 out of 10. It's a it's a bad film, but there's some entertainment value there.
Yeah, I'd probably give it about the same. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, it's poorly made. It's not a good film at all. But I could at least say that, they tried, especially with what they were given, they probably wouldn't have been able to make a good product regardless. But I do think it is entertaining in a so bad it's good way. It is very well, I wouldn't say very well, but it is like entertaining as just how big of a disaster it is. It's not great, but I mean, I still enjoy it. I still enjoy the Dennis Hopper line reads in this film. I mean, I think just a lot of good, meme material to have, but it's insane that this film even exists. But it does sort of set an example of like, yeah, you can take a risk on something, but obviously don't stray too far. But then again, they probably weren't given too much. But I mean, honestly, I think Nintendo should like, still take a lesson from this film at the end of the day. And like, yeah, you can take a risk on it as long as you do the right thing. And obviously they're now more, fulfilling and thinking that, Mario needs to be kept in a box, and which it shouldn't be the case. But who am I to say? I don't own the character. But yeah, either way, it's not a good film, but it's entertaining regardless. So yeah, 3 out of 10. So all right. Well, we're just over 2.5 hours. So yeah, we're just gonna put an end to it here. We do have a host recommendation. And believe it or not, it is actually not Matthew. It's not I. It's actually not a host either. Well, our next guest is going to be Kat Trout-Barron. They are a student over at the American Film Institute, a screenwriting fellow, I believe. And, initially it was going to be like my recommendation for the next episode. And I was sort of like, oh, I want to think about something we could talk about. And, I think director that came to mind is the very great late David Lynch, who obviously whose work is pretty well known at this point. Despite the limited amount of filmography the guy has, at least feature length, he still has left a huge impact on the film industry. And I think it would be interesting to get into a conversation about the director and his work. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, I want to look for a film that we could certainly talk about. And so that's when I called Kat, who is a certified Lynch head in a lot of cases. Because they are so into David Lynch's filmography and resonate with it a lot, and thinking like, yeah, they would be a great guest to bring on to the episode. And they recommended Wild at Heart, the 1990 film starring Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. So have you seen it before? I can't remember.
I have not, and I'm very excited because I've been wanting to watch it for a long time. So I'm looking forward to this. Awesome.
Yeah, it's also one of my David Lynch blind spots, oddly enough. Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation. Very much so. And if you want to hear us talk about Wild at Heart with Kat Trout-Barron on the next episode and don't want to get spoiled, watch the film before we release the next episode, which we have episodes releasing every other Monday. Also, if you haven't already, follow us on our social media, which we have Instagram, Letterboxd, and Twitter, which all have links in the description. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, feel free to hit us with a follow. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe icon along with the bell icon so you get notified when a new video comes out. Otherwise, I've been Daniel.
And I've been Matthew.
And I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Ba-bomb.